There is a kind of strength that does not raise its voice, a power that does not rush to defend itself, that does not tremble in the face of insult, and that does not need the last word. This strength lives in silence. When someone disrespects you, it's instinctual to respond, to snap back, to clarify, to prove a point. But real growth begins when you realize not every battle deserves your energy, not every slight needs your reaction. Silence, when chosen deliberately, can be louder than any argument. It is the voice of someone who understands their value, doesn't decrease just because someone else couldn't see it. In a world where clapping back and speaking out is glorified, choosing silence is revolutionary. It is not weakness, nor is it passivity. It's the calm confidence of someone who doesn't need to beg for validation. Because when you know who you are, when you're rooted in truth, you stop being shaken by temporary voices. That silence becomes a declaration, a boundary, a line that says, I'm not going to entertain what is beneath me. You do not have to absorb every projection thrown your way. You do not have to let someone else's chaos live in your spirit. Staying quiet after disrespect does not mean you didn't feel the pain. It means you're choosing your peace over your pride. Sometimes people want to bait you. They push buttons just to see how much power they have over you. But your silence is proof that you've taken that power back. They may not understand it at first. They might even mistake your stillness for weakness. But with time, your silence becomes undeniable. Because people notice when you stop explaining yourself. They notice when you stop showing up to defend what doesn't need defending. There is a quiet elegance to knowing your worth without needing to announce it. You become the kind of person who doesn't need to win every conversation to feel whole. And here's the truth. Silence protects you. It keeps you from saying things you'll regret. It shields your energy from spiraling into someone else's chaos. It gives you space to observe instead of react, to think instead of explode. Disrespect often comes from people who are hurting, who haven't done the inner work, who don't even know how to speak to themselves with kindness. So how could they offer it to you? By staying quiet, you refuse to become like them. You refuse to mirror their behavior. You refuse to make their problem your identity. There is also a mysterious kind of transformation that happens in silence. It's where self-worth gets rebuilt, where self-trust grows, where you start to understand that not everything requires your participation. Just because someone disrespects you doesn't mean you owe them your voice. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is no statement at all. And in that quiet, you are not just avoiding conflict, you are asserting who you are. You are standing tall in invisible strength. You are letting your calm speak volumes. There's also a beauty in knowing that not every hurt needs an audience. Sometimes we mistake expression for healing, but healing also happens in the sacred spaces of silence. After the sting of disrespect, your silence becomes the space where your heart can catch up, where your thoughts can realign, where your spirit can breathe. You are not silencing your truth, you are honoring it by not offering it to people who wouldn't honor it with you. You are choosing to protect your inner world from the noise of ignorance, from the weight of proving yourself right, and from the toxic cycle of reaction. And in doing so, you rise. Every time you stay quiet, not out of fear, but out of intention, you rise a little more above the noise. You begin to live in a place where peace matters more than ego, where strength is quiet but unmistakable, where presence speaks without needing a word. Every single time you choose not to respond to disrespect, you send a message, not just to the person who tried to belittle you, but to yourself and to the world around you. You are teaching people how to treat you by what you tolerate, and more importantly, by what you no longer give your attention to. When you rise above disrespect without engaging, you're not being passive, you're showing them that your energy has value, and it is not to be wasted on things that do not nourish your growth. You stop becoming so accessible to chaos. You no longer make room for conversations that deplete you. You no longer open your soul for people who aren't capable of seeing its worth. Disrespect is often a test of how far you've come in your healing, a test of how deeply you love yourself, a test of whether you still need outside approval to feel whole. And when you pass that test by responding with silence, by choosing not to argue, not to chase, not to demand basic decency, you show the world that you are no longer the person who needs to be seen to feel valid. You are no longer begging for kindness. You are no longer shrinking yourself to fit in with people who haven't learned how to love themselves, let alone love others. Instead, you are teaching with your boundaries, with your restraint, with your calm refusal to be moved by noise. The truth is, when you react to every little thing, people learn that your buttons are easy to push. They learn that your peace is cheap, that your presence can be pulled into any conflict, any drama, any mess. But when you begin to withdraw that access, when you stop engaging just because someone demands your reaction, you create a space around yourself that commands respect. People begin to think twice before crossing you, not out of fear, but out of understanding that you have elevated your standards. You are not here to convince anyone of your worth. You are not available for disrespect, and you certainly won't entertain it just to prove a point. There is also a quiet power in disappointing people who expect you to lose control. Some people feed off your reaction. They want to see you rattle. They want to see you defend. They want to see you spiral. But when you respond with grace, with stillness, with a peaceful kind of detachment, you are doing more than protecting your energy. You are making a statement that your emotions are not for public consumption, that your soul is not a battlefield, that your life is not a playground for other people's projections. So you keep teaching, not with lectures, not with retaliation, but with your silence, your peace, your unshakable presence. You teach people that you are not available for small talk with small minds. You teach them that your value does not fluctuate with someone else's opinion. You teach them that once you've decided you're worthy, nothing anyone says or does can take that away. You teach with what you walk away from, with what you no longer explain, with what you let go of without looking back. Disrespect is never really about you. It is a reflection of the person delivering it, a mirror of their wounds, their insecurities, and their unresolved pain. People often project what they carry inside onto others, hoping to lighten their own burdens by placing them on someone else. But just because someone throws their negativity your way does not mean you have to catch it, hold it, or make it part of your identity. When you stay quiet in the face of disrespect, you are not ignoring your feelings. You are recognizing the source of the pain and choosing not to absorb it. You are seeing clearly that their behavior says everything about them and nothing about you. It takes wisdom to understand that not every insult needs a rebuttal. Not every accusation deserves your time. The moment you grasp that their words are rooted in their own suffering, you release yourself from the trap of taking things personally. You begin to see that the disrespect is not a measure of your worth, but a revelation of their inner turmoil. People who are content, who are at peace with themselves, who know love and kindness in their own hearts, do not go around disrespecting others. Disrespect often comes from brokenness, from unhealed wounds, from people who have not yet learned how to live in harmony with themselves. When you recognize this, your silence becomes more than just self-control. It becomes compassion for yourself. You are not letting the toxicity of others seep into your spirit. You are not allowing their wounds to create wounds within you. You are refusing to become a mirror of their dysfunction. In that moment of silence, you are reclaiming your power. You are choosing to stay rooted in your own peace rather than be pulled into the chaos of someone else's storm. Staying quiet doesn't mean you didn't feel the sting. It means you have decided not to let it define your response. It means you are wise enough to understand that you cannot control how others treat you, but you can always control how you respond. Their disrespect does not require your participation. You refuse to let your sense of self be hijacked by someone else's inability to manage their emotion. You are not here to fix them, to correct them, or to convince them of your worth. Your silence draws a line that says, your opinion does not alter my truth. There is a sacred kind of strength in seeing disrespect for what it is, a projection, and allowing it to pass without disturbance. When you stop engaging with those who try to diminish you, you elevate yourself to a higher plane. You no longer dance with negativity. You no longer invite darkness into your light. Your quiet refusal to engage becomes an act of self-love, a declaration that you will not carry someone else's baggage. You will not internalize their projections. You will not allow their bitterness to take root in your life. Instead, you stand in your truth, anchored and unshaken, allowing their words to dissolve into the nothingness from which they came. In the stillness that follows disrespect, there lies an extraordinary opportunity for growth. It is in that quiet space, after the sting of someone's harsh words or careless actions, that you begin to cultivate a deep understanding of yourself, Silence in these moments becomes a fertile ground for personal evolution. While the world urges you to respond, to defend, to retaliate, you instead choose to retreat inward, to listen, to observe, and to allow wisdom to settle into your being. The growth that happens in silence is not loud or boastful. It is steady, profound, and deeply transformative. When you are disrespected and you choose not to respond immediately, you give yourself the gift of perspective. You allow your emotions the space to settle, to cool, to untangle. You give your mind the room to analyze what happened with clarity rather than with the heat of reaction. Often, in the heat of the moment, emotions can cloud judgment. Anger rises, hurt festers, pride demands a response, but silence allows you to step back from the edge, to see things from a higher vantage point, to understand the situation not just from the lens of your own pain, but also from the complexity of human behavior. In this reflective space, you learn more about who you are and who you are becoming. You recognize the patterns that trigger you. You notice the wounds that still need healing. You become aware of the areas in your life where you are still vulnerable to other people's opinions. And through this awareness, you start to mend those parts of yourself. You strengthen the foundations of your self-worth so that the next time disrespect comes knocking, it finds no entry point. Your silence becomes your teacher, your healer, your mirror. Choosing silence after being disrespected also teaches patience, a virtue often overlooked but incredibly powerful. Patience allows you to resist the impulsive urge to defend yourself in the moment. It helps you trust that you don't need to win every argument or correct every false perception. In patience, you begin to trust the process of life itself. You realize that time often reveals truths that words cannot. What seems urgent to address in the heat of conflict often loses its significance as days pass and emotions cool. Silence allows those moments to pass naturally, without you having to expend unnecessary energy. As you grow in these quiet moments, you also develop a stronger sense of self-control. You begin to master your emotions rather than be mastered by them. You become aware that not everything requires your reaction and not everyone is deserving of your words. This kind of control is not about suppressing your feelings, but about honoring them in a way that serves your higher self. You recognize that responding to disrespect with anger or defensiveness often leaves you feeling depleted, while choosing silence leaves you feeling centered and empowered. In silence, you also cultivate resilience. Life will not always be kind and people will not always be respectful, but when you learn to stand quietly in the face of disrespect, you build an inner fortitude that no one can shake. You become rooted like a tree, strong and grounded, regardless of the winds that blow against you. This resilience allows you to move through life with grace, even in the face of adversity. Furthermore, silence offers you a powerful sense of freedom. Freedom from the need to be understood by everyone. Freedom from the compulsion to fix others' perceptions of you. Freedom from the exhausting cycle of defending your worth. You come to understand that your value is not up for debate. It simply exists unwavering and unchanging, regardless of how others choose to treat you. And in that freedom you find peace. The quiet after disrespect becomes a sacred space where you learn to listen, not just to the noise around you, but to your own voice within. You begin to hear the whispers of your intuition, guiding you toward what truly matters. You recognize the smallness of those who try to tear you down, and the vastness of your own capacity for compassion, wisdom, and grace. This inner dialogue strengthens you, fills you with confidence that does not depend on external validation, and grounds you in a deeper sense of purpose. In this silence, you are not passive. You are actively choosing to grow. You are creating space for a stronger, wiser, more peaceful version of yourself to emerge. One who no longer reacts to disrespect, but simply rises above it, untouched and unbothered. There is something radiant about a person who refuses to be pulled into the ugliness of retaliation. When faced with disrespect, the immediate temptation is often to strike back, to match the rudeness with sharper words, to make sure the offender feels the sting of your response. But true dignity lies in rising above that instinct, in allowing your grace to speak where your voice chooses not to. Dignity, carried through stillness, is a quiet power that commands far more respect than any quick-witted comeback ever could. It is a posture of strength that declares, I know who I am, and I will not lower myself to match your behavior. Retaliation might satisfy the ego momentarily, but it never feeds the soul. It keeps you tethered to the very energy you are trying to escape. It prolongs the negativity, binds you to the conflict, and often leaves you feeling emptier after the heat of the exchange fades. But when you choose dignity, when you let silence be your response, you break that cycle. You reclaim your energy and preserve your peace. You show others and yourself that your self-worth isn't dependent on winning arguments or proving someone wrong. Your worth is intact, unshaken, and untouched by the immaturity or cruelty of others. There's an undeniable magnetism in the one who remains poised while others lose control. When you refuse to engage in retaliation, you stand as a mirror reflecting your inner discipline. You are no longer swayed by provocations meant to pull you into chaos. Instead, you stay rooted in your own values, your own truth, and your own grace. This is not about weakness or submission. It is about mastery. Mastery over your emotions. Mastery over your impulses. Mastery over your need to be right. And in this mastery, you demonstrate a level of maturity that commands attention without ever demanding it. The beauty of dignity is that it allows you to maintain your integrity even in moments where others abandon theirs. It protects your character when the situation tempts you to act out of character. You understand that your actions reflect you, not the person who disrespected you. So instead of matching their energy, you elevate above it. You choose to protect your peace over your pride, to guard your light rather than dim it in response to their darkness. This choice not only preserves your inner harmony, but also influences how others perceive and respect you. There is also a silent power in knowing that not everything deserves your reaction. Sometimes the greatest show of strength is to walk away with your head held high, leaving behind the noise, the drama, and the disrespect. You carry your dignity like an invisible crown, unbothered by those who cannot see its worth. And while others may try to provoke you, hoping to drag you into their storm, you remain anchored in your calm, allowing their disrespect to echo into the emptiness of your absence. In doing so, you not only protect your energy, but you also show them that you are someone who values peace over pettiness, growth over grudges, and dignity over destruction. There is a quiet truth that many come to understand only through experience. The universe keeps score. Not always in the way we expect, not always with grand displays or instant consequences, but in subtle, powerful, and often unseen ways. When you stay silent after disrespect, you're not just preserving your peace, you're placing your trust in a higher order, in a system that works beyond your immediate need for justice. You are surrendering your need to react and instead allowing the universe to respond in its own time with far more accuracy and fairness than any impulsive retaliation could ever offer. When someone disrespects you and you choose not to retaliate, it doesn't mean you've accepted the behavior. It means you trust that truth doesn't need to be shouted. You believe that energy returns to its source, that what is given out into the world, disrespect, anger, bitterness, eventually makes its way back to where it came from. Life has a way of circling back, of balancing the scales in moments when we least expect it. Those who mistreat others often find themselves stuck in cycles of their own making. They live in the chaos they try to throw at others. They walk through a world where disrespect is their language, and eventually they encounter its echo. Meanwhile, your silence allows you to stay clear of that cycle. It keeps your karma clean, your heart unburdened, and your spirit light. You begin to walk through life with the understanding that you don't need to interfere with someone's downfall. You don't have to be the one to deliver lessons they are destined to learn through experience. By stepping back, by refusing to engage, you allow life to teach them in ways that are far more impactful than anything you could say or do. Sometimes the greatest consequence for those who disrespect others is being left alone with their own energy. In staying silent, you create space for grace to work. You give room for dignity to grow. You build trust in yourself that you don't have to be reactive to be powerful. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it sits in the quiet corner of your soul, confident that everything happening around you will sort itself out. You stop chasing justice and instead allow justice to come to you, not from ego, but from a place of knowing that everything seen and unseen is connected, that cause and effect are not just philosophical ideas, but deeply embedded truths of the universe. People often mistake silence for weakness, but there is immense strength in restraint. It takes courage to not clap back, to not speak your hurt aloud, to not seek revenge. But when you live with the understanding that the universe remembers everything, every intention, every action, every word, You can let go of the need to control outcomes. You start living with the kind of faith that cannot be shaken, the kind that knows the truth always surfaces, the light always finds a way through, and the energy you put out into the world will always return to you in one form or another.